Okay, guys, we are on the last section of chapter 1. We're going to be doing section 1.5, and it's about rewriting formulas and solving literal equations. So the first thing I want to go over is most of you already know some formulas that you've learned a long time ago. Okay, so the first one I want to show you is area. The area of a rectangle is equal to the length times width, which most of you already know that, okay? And most of you write it something like this, where I'll just say area equals length times width. Now with rewriting formulas, right now this formula is solving for the area. What if I asked you, could you rearrange this formula so a different variable would be isolated? Right now the A is isolated for area. What if I told you to isolate the W, the width? What would you do? So in this case, the L is being multiplied to W, and I know if I could get rid of that L, the W would be by itself, the width would be isolated. So, just like you learned earlier, if I divide by L on both sides, the L's will cancel out on the right side of the equation. Now on the left side of the equation, you just have area divided by L. Nothing you can do with that. You're done. Your W is by itself. So we'll just write it like this. Your W is by itself. The width is equal to whatever your area is divided by length. What do you think? Okay? They look weird. They look like they're not finished. But as long as your variable that they're wanting you to isolate is isolated, you're done. It's just rewriting a formula, so you're solving for a different variable. So in this scenario right here, what if I gave you a problem where you knew the area, like I told you what the actual area of the rectangle was, and I told you what the actual length was, you could then solve for W. So you could rearrange the formula so the width is by itself. So you just plug in the area, plug in the length, and you'll have your width automatically. Okay? So let's try another one. Let me see if I can get a new page here. I think I can do it here. Okay. So let's use the same formula just so we get the hang of it. Let's say for area equals length times width, let's say we want the L by itself. We want the length by itself. Divide both sides by W. So you get area divided by the width is going to give you the length. So if I told you in a word problem or in some scenario that I told you that the area was 24 and that the width was 4, you have to solve for length. So instead of plugging those numbers into the original equation, so if I told you the area was 24 and the length, the width was 4, you would do something like this. And then you divide both sides by 4 and do a little math. Well, if you rearrange the formula to begin with, you can just plug in your numbers. So you'll just get 24 over 4 equals your length, and you're done. Okay? So let's try. I was going to erase with the eraser, but I'm using the Mimeo. Okay, let's try a different formula. So let me go to a new page. And let's try another formula. So let's say I gave you, how about the area of a circle? The area of a circle, oops, forgot to change my, area of a circle is pi r squared. And you may or may not be familiar with that. That's okay. What if I gave you that formula and I said, could you isolate, let's say, your pi? Let's get pi all by itself. Could you do that? Yes. These two are being multiplied together. I could divide both sides by r squared. So your area of a circle divided by your radius squared is going to give you pi every time. So I just isolated pi. Okay? Let's try. There's all sorts of formulas that you can use that you can rearrange, some that you know has to do with distance. Some of you know that distance, oh, I did it again, sorry. Distance is the same thing as rate, the rate times time. Some of you see it like this, capital D equals rate times time. But what if I gave you some problem or a scenario that you already knew the distance? That wasn't your unknown. I already told you what the distance was. And let's say I gave you the rate. You already knew what the rate was. But I'm asking you, what is the time? Well, you could plug it into this formula and work it out and find the time. Okay. Or you could rearrange the formula to begin with and isolate the t for time. So divide both sides by r and you're done. So your distance divided by your rate is going to give you your time. So you can just plug in your distance, plug in your rate, and your whatever answer you're going to get is automatically going to give you your time. So every once in a while, it is more efficient to just rearrange your formula to isolate the variable that you're looking for, that the answer is asked or the question is asking for. Okay, what do you think? Now, I'm going to give you probably a few problems to work on that are just formulas, and then we'll get into literal equations. So stay tuned for that one.